Most homesteaders waste their first acre. They plant everything in May, harvest in August, and stare at bare dirt for the other 10 months of the year. That's not a homestead. That's a hobby garden with extra steps. Here's what nobody tells you. 1 acre planted correctly month by month can feed your family year-round. Fresh greens in January, protein crops in July, root storage in October, something producing every single week of the year without buying a single bag of groceries. But it only works if you follow a specific planting calendar, not the one on the back of the seed packet, not the one from your county extension office, a real calendar built for homesteaders who want food independence on limited land. By the end of this video, you'll have a complete month-by-month planting system for 1 acre that keeps your beds full, your pantry stocked, and your soil building itself stronger every season. And I'll be honest with you, once I mapped this out on my own property, it changed everything. Less stress, more food, 0 dead months. Let's get into it. Here's what happens on most 1-acre homesteads. You get excited in spring, you buy a pile of seed packets, till up a big garden plot, and plant everything at once. Tomatoes, squash, beans, corn, peppers, all of it goes in the ground the same week. For about 3 months, it looks amazing. You're drowning in zucchini. You've got tomatoes coming out of your ears. You feel like a real farmer. Then September hits, the garden dies back, the beds go empty, and for the next 6 or 7 months, you're right back at the grocery store spending $200 to $400 a month on food you could have grown yourself. That's $1,400 to $2,800 a year in groceries during your dead months alone, money walking straight out the door because nobody taught you how to stagger your plantings. And it gets worse. That bare soil sitting empty from October to April isn't just unproductive, it's actively degrading. Rain washes away topsoil, nutrients leach out, weed seeds blow in and establish before you even get back out there in spring. You're literally losing your most valuable asset while you're not using it. The mainstream gardening advice doesn't help either. Seed packets give you 1 planting window. Most YouTube channels show you what to plant but never when to plant it in relation to everything else. And county extension guides are designed for commodity agriculture, not homestead food production. So you end up with a boom and bust cycle. 3 months of abundance, followed by 9 months of nothing. And every spring, you start from scratch, buying new seeds, rebuilding beds, fighting weeds that took over during the dead season. That's not self-sufficiency, that's seasonal gardening pretending to be a food system. The real problem isn't your land. 1 acre is more than enough. The problem is timing, and today we're going to fix that permanently. Here's something most modern homesteaders never learn. Traditional farmers didn't plant once a year. They planted every single month. Go back 200 years and look at how small farms actually operated. They had succession calendars carved into the rhythm of their entire year. Cold hardy greens went in while snow was still on the ground. Root crops followed as the soil warmed. Summer plantings overlapped with fall sowings, and winter crops were already established before the first frost arrived. These farmers didn't have seed catalogs or extension offices. They had generations of timing knowledge passed down through families. They knew exactly which week to sow turnips so they'd mature before hard freeze. They knew when to start cabbage indoors so transplants were ready the moment beds opened up. Every month had a job, every bed had a purpose, nothing sat empty, and their soil reflected it. Continuous root coverage meant constant biological activity underground. Mycorrhizal networks stayed intact, earthworm populations thrived, organic matter built up instead of washing away. The soil got better every year instead of worse. Then industrial agriculture changed everything. Monocropping replaced diversity, single harvest windows replaced year-round production, and the idea that you plant in spring and harvest in fall became so deeply embedded that even homesteaders adopted it without questioning it. But the old system never stopped working, it was just forgotten. What I'm going to walk you through today is that same ancient calendar adapted for a modern 1-acre homestead. 12 months of intentional planting, no dead months, no bare soil, no grocery store dependency from October to April. This is the system that traditional farmers use to feed families on less land than most of us have right now, and it still works. If you want a homestead that produces food every single month of the year, subscribe right now and hit the bell. What's coming next is the complete month-by-month breakdown, and you're gonna want to save this one. Most homesteaders are sitting inside doing nothing in January. That's a mistake. This is when you start your earliest crops indoors under grow lights, 8 to 10 weeks before your last frost date. Leeks, too. These are slow growers that need a head start, and if you wait until spring to plant them, you've already lost 2 months of growing time. But here's what most people miss. If you have any kind of cold frame, low tunnel, or even a south-facing window well, you can direct sow cold hardy greens right now. Spinach germinates in soil as cold as 35 degrees. Claytonia and mosh laugh at freezing temperatures. These crops grow slowly in winter, but they grow, and by March, you're harvesting fresh salad greens while your neighbors are still flipping through seed catalogs. On a 1-acre layout, dedicate one raised bed or a 4x8 cold frame to winter greens. That's all it takes. You'll pull fresh food from January through early April from a space smaller than a parking spot. This is also when you review your full year calendar, order seeds, and prep your soil amendments. Lime, wood ash, and compost should be staged and ready before the ground thaws. But the next 2 months are where things really start moving. Item 2. March, the first outdoor push. March is when your homestead wakes up, and if you're not in the ground this month, you're already behind. As soon as your soil can be worked, and that means when a handful crumbles instead of clumping into a mud ball, you direct sow peas, radishes, lettuce, kale, and turnips. These crops thrive in cool soil and actually produce better before the heat arrives. Peas are your priority. They fix nitrogen directly into the soil, which means they're feeding your summer crops while producing food for your table. Get them in the ground by mid-March in most zones, and you'll harvest by late May. This is also when you transplant those onion and leek starts you began in January. They need 90 to 120 days to mature, so every week you delay pushes your harvest deeper into summer and creates a gap in your calendar. On 1 acre, dedicate your largest bed space to spring brassicas and root crops this month. They'll be harvested and cleared by June, opening that ground for your warm season successionals. Nothing sits idle. Every bed has a next job waiting. Potatoes go in now too. Cut your seed potatoes, let them cure for 48 hours, and get them 4 inches deep. Early varieties will be ready by June, giving you calorie-dense food storage before summer even peaks. March alone can set up 3 to 4 months of continuous harvesting if you time it right. April is where smart homesteaders separate themselves from everyone else. This is the overlap month. Your March plantings are growing, your indoor seedlings for warm season crops, tomatoes, peppers, squash, cucumbers, are hardening off, and you're still sowing cool season successionals, another round of lettuce, another row of radishes, more spinach in any open space. This stacking is the secret. You're not waiting for one crop to finish before starting the next. You're layering plantings so harvests overlap and beds transition seamlessly. Start your bean and cucumber seeds indoors this month. They'll be ready to transplant the moment your last frost passes. On 1 acre, that timing precision is the difference between 8 months of food and 12 months of food. April is also when you direct sow carrots. They take 70 to 80 days, which puts your harvest in late June. Sow a second round in late April, and you extend that carrot harvest into July. 2 plantings, 1 month, 8 weeks of carrots instead of 4. If you're not planting in 2-week intervals during April, you're leaving food on the table. After your last frost date, everything changes. This is when your 1 acre goes into full production mode. Tomatoes, peppers, squash, cucumbers, and beans go into the ground. These are your heavy calorie and preservation crops, the ones that fill your canning jars, your freezer, and your dehydrator for winter. But here's the critical move most homesteaders skip. The beds where you harvested spring peas, radishes, and early lettuce are now empty. Don't let them sit. Immediately replant with bush beans, summer squash, or a fast-maturing cucumber variety. This second planting from cleared spring beds is free real estate that most people waste. On 1 acre, this relay planting technique can increase your total annual yield by 30 to 40% without adding a single square foot of garden space. June is also when you sow your fall brassica starts indoors. Broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage need 6 to 8 weeks before transplanting in late July or August. If you forget this step in June, your fall garden won't exist. Write it on your calendar, set an alarm. This is the planting most people miss, and it's the one that kills their winter food supply. Summer feels like cruise control, but the real work is planning 2 seasons ahead. July and August are your second spring. The heat is at its peak, but you're not just maintaining summer crops, you're starting an entirely new growing season underneath them. Direct sow fall carrots, beets, and turnips in late July. These crops mature in the cooling temperatures of September and October and actually taste sweeter after a light frost. Start winter squash transplants if you haven't already, and get your fall lettuce, spinach, and kale seeds into shaded beds where summer crops provide natural cooling. In August, transplant those broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage starts you sowed in June. They'll grow through fall and produce well into November in most zones. Some varieties survive light frosts and keep giving you heads for weeks after your summer garden is done. This is also when you sow cover crops in any bed that's finished producing for the year. Winter rye, crimson clover, or Austrian winter peas. These aren't cash crops, they're soil builders. They hold your topsoil in place, fix nitrogen, and feed the biology underground so your beds come back stronger next spring. A 1 acre homestead with cover crops on resting beds will outperform a 2 acre homestead with bare soil every single time. September and October are when your homestead shifts from fresh eating to long-term storage, and this is where 1 acre really starts to shine. Your fall brassicas are producing, your storage carrots and beets are sizing up underground. Late-season beans are drying on the vine for winter protein, and your winter squash is curing in the sun, building the hard shell that lets it store for 6 to 9 months without refrigeration. This is also your final direct sowing window. Garlic goes in the ground in October, 4 to 6 weeks before your first hard freeze. It winter-overs in the soil, develops roots all through the cold months, and explodes into growth the following spring. 1 pound of seed garlic produces 7 to 10 pounds of cured bulbs. That's a 700 to 1,000% return on your investment. No other crop on your homestead comes close to that ratio. Sow a thick stand of winter rye or hairy vetch on every empty bed. By November, those cover crops will have 4 to 6 inches of green growth holding your soil in place through winter storms. September is also when you plant perennial food systems. Fruit trees, berry bushes, asparagus crowns, and rhubarb all establish best in fall. These are the 10 to 20-year investments that compound your 1 acre's productivity every season they mature. The homesteaders who plant in October eat in April. The ones who don't are back at the grocery store. Here's where most homesteaders check out. The garden's done, the beds are brown, time to wait for spring. But on a properly planned 1 acre, November and December are harvest months, not dead months. Your fall-planted kale, spinach, and collards are still producing under row cover or inside a simple cold frame. Carrots left in the ground with a thick layer of straw mulch stay crisp and sweet through freezing temperatures. They're actually at their best flavor right now because cold converts their starches to sugars. Parsnips, this is the forgotten homestead crop. They need a hard frost before harvest to develop their full sweetness. Most people have never eaten a fresh parsnip pulled from frozen ground in December. It tastes like a completely different vegetable than the ones in grocery stores. Your pantry is full of canned tomatoes, dried beans, cured winter squash, and dehydrated herbs from summer. Your garlic is rooting underground, your cover crops are protecting your soil, and your cold frame is producing fresh greens for salads. That's a 12-month food system from 1 acre. No dead months, no bare soil, no dependency. And the best part? Next January, you start the whole cycle again, but with better soil, more experience, and even more confidence. I'll be honest with you, I didn't always plant like this. My first year on the homestead, I did exactly what I described in the problem section. I waited until May, planted everything at once, and felt like a genius for about 90 days. Tomatoes everywhere, more zucchini than any human should ever have to deal with. Beans coming in by the bucket. Then October hit, and the garden was dead. Bare dirt, nothing growing. And I remember standing in the grocery store in November buying bags of lettuce and thinking, I have an entire acre at home and I'm paying $4 for salad greens right now. That winter, I sat down and mapped out every single month. I was skeptical that anything would actually grow in January or February in my zone. It felt like wishful thinking. But I built one small cold frame out of scrap lumber and an old window, cost me maybe $15, and planted spinach and mache in late December just to test it. By mid-February, I was cutting fresh greens. Not a lot, maybe a handful every few days, but it was food from my land in February. That one small win changed my entire approach. The next year, I followed a full 12-month calendar. I staggered my plantings every 2 weeks through spring. I sowed fall crops in July when it felt completely wrong to be starting seeds in the heat. I planted garlic in October for the first time. The results were measurable. My grocery bill dropped by over $250 a month during what used to be my dead season. I harvested fresh food in every single calendar month, and my soil looked better in spring because I'd kept it covered all winter with cover crops instead of leaving it bare. It wasn't perfect that second year. I missed my fall brassica start date and had to buy transplants. I planted carrots too late for proper fall storage, but even with the mistakes, I produced more food in 12 months than I'd grown in 3 years of seasonal gardening combined. Now it's just how I farm. The calendar runs the homestead. Every month has its job, and I never stand in a grocery store in November wondering why I have an acre at home producing nothing. Before you start mapping out your calendar, let me save you from the mistakes I see homesteaders make every single year. Mistake number 1, planting everything on the same date. This is the most common one, and it destroys your entire harvest window. If you plant all your lettuce in one row on one day, it all matures the same week. You get 2 weeks of lettuce and then nothing. Instead, sow a short row every 10 to 14 days from March through May. That one change turns 2 weeks of harvest into 3 months of continuous greens. Mistake number 2, ignoring the fall planting window. Most homesteaders treat July and August as maintenance months. Water the tomatoes, pick the beans, wait the things to ripen, but if you're not starting fall crops in midsummer, you've already lost your winter food supply. Broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower need to be started indoors by late June. Miss that window by even 3 weeks and they won't size up before frost. Mark it on your calendar now. Mistake number 3, leaving beds bare over winter. Empty soil isn't resting, it's eroding. Every rainstorm strips nutrients and topsoil. Every freeze and thaw cycle breaks down soil structure. And weed seeds are establishing root systems while you're inside drinking coffee. Cover crops cost $10 to $15 per bed, and they pay you back tenfold in spring with better soil, fewer weeds, and free nitrogen. There is no good reason to leave soil uncovered from November to March. None. Mistake number 4, not tracking what you planted and when. Your planting calendar only works if you record what actually happened, which varieties went in, what date, when you harvested, and how it performed. A $3 notebook is the most valuable tool on your homestead. Without records, you're guessing every year instead of improving. Here's what happens when you run this calendar for 2 or 3 years straight. Your soil transforms. Continuous root coverage and cover cropping builds organic matter faster than any amendment you can buy. Earthworm populations explode, water retention improves, your beds get easier to work every season. Your grocery bill shrinks permanently, not just during summer, year-round. Fresh greens in winter, storage crops carrying you through spring, preserved harvests filling every gap. That $200 to $400 a month you used to spend during dead months stays in your pocket. And your confidence changes too. There's something powerful about walking outside in January and harvesting food from your own land. It rewires how you think about security, independence, and what 1 acre actually can do. And your homestead starts compounding. Those fruit trees you planted in October start bearing in year 3. Your asparagus bed gets stronger every spring. Your garlic multiplies. Your soil biology matures. Every year the system produces more food with less effort from you. That's the real promise of a 12-month planting calendar. Not just more food, a homestead that gets better on its own. Drop your USDA zone in the comments and tell me which month you've been skipping. Is it the fall planting window? The winter cold frame greens? The cover crops? I want to know where your calendar has gaps because I guarantee you're not alone. If you're already running a year-round system, share what's working. Your experience helps every homesteader watching this video make better decisions, and I read every single comment. If this changed how you think about your 1 acre, hit subscribe and the bell. Next video, I'm breaking down the exact crops that produce the most calories per square foot on a small homestead. The list might surprise you. You're going to want to see it. 1 acre is enough. It's always been enough. You just need the right calendar.